This video contains major spoilers for Metroid Prime Remastered. Metroid Prime Remastered is a triumph of game design, even 2 decades later. It presents an adventure that never insults the intelligence of the player, with an array of unique gameplay and storytelling elements. I'm Ouroboros. Let's talk. The original Prime released in 2002 alongside Metroid Fusion and kickstarted the golden era of Metroid. It was Samus's first jump into 3D and was unanimously praised for his bold approach while maintaining the foundation of the series. The Switch remaster pays tribute to the far-gone titan of the GameCube era by giving it the graphical update that it didn't need, but deserved. Don't be fooled, this isn't some upscale. This is a fully realized update to a game that is older than some college students. Nintendo pulled out all the stops for this one. Let me set the stage for you a bit. Samus receives a distress signal from the nearby frigate Orpheon, only to find the space pirate research ship in ruin. Bodies are strewn across the floor. Some pirates cling on for dear life, some fight Samus, but the lucky few have evacuated. Various tanks are filled with wildlife from the nearby planet Talon 4. No doubt they're the subjects of space pirate experimentation. Although one thing is clear, something has gone terribly wrong. As you inch closer to the core of the frigate, you encounter wildly mutated life forms from a substance the space pirates have discovered. Phazon is a deadly, radioactive material with the ability to drastically mutate organisms. Samus pushes on and fights a heavily mutated parasite queen, whose death causes the reactor core to go critical. Rushing back to her ship, Samus encounters Meta Ridley, a cybernetically reconstructed form of the Metroid antagonist, and is unfortunately stripped of her powers. Escaping before the frigate explodes, Samus follows Meta Ridley to the surface of Talon 4, where the rest of the game takes place. Talon 4 is a diverse planet with various ecological zones. The Talon 4 overworld serves as a lush forest where Samus has found a suitable landing spot. The Chozo Ruins was once a prosperous Chozo settlement, but has now been annihilated by a poisoned water source. Magmoor Caverns is a claustrophobic, magma-ridden pit deep below the surface. Phendrana Drifts contrasts that by being a frozen tundra that reaches to the far edges of Talon 4. The Phazon Mines is the hostile base of the space pirates on Talon 4, and where they conduct their research on the effects of Phazon. Finally, the Impact Crater houses the source of the corruption, which the Chozo attempted to seal away. It's up to you to navigate through the labyrinth of Talon 4 and piece together what went wrong. Metroid Prime respects the player's intelligence more than just about any other game. While most games now are littered with overwhelmingly basic tutorials, Prime integrates its tutorial into the opening section of the game. And this is where the greatness starts. You're given some time to get used to the first-person controls. Remember, this was Metroid's first attempt at a 3D and first-person game. You slowly get accustomed to the way Samus moves, the way her arm cannon fires, and how scanning works. Then you slowly fight harder enemies. Nothing overwhelming at first. Again, all of the space pirates who are still on the frigate are severely weakened. Until you get to the Parasite Queen. She's not a particularly hard fight, but it tests your basic skills of maneuvering to a weak point and strafing away from incoming attacks. Then bam! You're hit with a time limit and you have to escape in a different direction. Retro slowly eases you into the water and then pushes you off the high dive. You're forced to recall all of the information you've just learned over the past 15 or so minutes and make it back to your ship in under 7. Retro even has you learn a new mechanic, the grapple beam, on the way back, only for you to be completely stripped of all of your upgrades nearing the end of the sequence. Now, some games will throw you a few bones at the start. Not Metroid Prime. You can jump, and you can shoot. That's it. No morph ball, no missiles, no charge beam, nothing. You were once a living weapon. Now you're nothing more than a grunt, a husk of your former self. You've had a taste of what the walking tank Samus Aran was. And now it's up to you to get back to that. That's the first 20 to 30 minutes of Metroid Prime. And it's brilliant. You were given a reason to investigate Talon 4 because you want to hunt down Meta Ridley and the Space Pirates, discover the secrets of Phazon, and collect power-ups to return to your former glory. Retro Studios accomplished more in a half-hour intro than some entire games. And it just sets the tone so well. You go through such a wide range of emotions in this opening. You're excited to see Samus for the first time. It's wondrous to be able to interact with her in a fully realized 3D environment. It's unsettling and slightly horrific to crawl through the destroyed rooms of the frigate. It's adrenaline pumping to go toe-to-toe with the Parasite Queen. It's tense to make it back to your ship in time. It's disheartening to lose your suit upgrades after you've just gotten accustomed to them. And it's hopeful to land on the lush surface of Talon 4. You'll eventually experience all of these emotions again as you progress throughout the game. The thing that blows me away is how they managed to accomplish all of this without a single word of dialogue. You're obviously given brief control prompts so that you have an idea of which buttons do what, but it's integrated so seamlessly into the experience. It makes Samus feel like an extension of yourself, rather than just another avatar for you to control. And that's why this game is a masterclass in atmosphere and immersion. Nothing adds to that feeling better than the scan visor. Scanning was introduced in Prime, and it is one of the most ingenious ideas Retro could have implemented. It's such a simple concept with such massive ramifications. All you have to do is briefly lock onto a target and you'll get a quick text blurb about it. But it goes far beyond the scope of just telling you what the enemy's weaknesses are. I'm consistently blown away by just how thorough Retro was with the scan visor, and they really didn't need to be. Honestly, if it had just been relegated to enemies, lore, and opening doors, that would have been plenty. But leave it to this game to go the extra mile. I love how in the frigate section you can get so much info about the Space Pirates' experiments just by scanning the test subjects. And all of them are creatures that you'll eventually encounter on Talon 4. Well, all of them except for the dead Parasite Queens who managed to escape their tanks and attack the Space Pirates. But those foreshadow the first boss in the frigate. Scanning the pirates, those alive or dead, will reveal the extent of their injuries in very gruesome detail. It shows just how horribly wrong the whole testing facility has gone. But it's little things like that which go a long way in establishing the identity of Metroid Prime. And that's exactly why I love this game. The little things. It's the way the lighting engine works to create these dark, moody environments. It's the way Samus grunts in pain when hit by a big attack. It's the way you briefly see a reflection of Samus's face when you fire a missile at a wall. It's the way the lights on her arm cannon pulse. It's the way they matched Samus's hand motions in the X-ray visor with the corresponding beam. It's the way sparks fly when the morph ball speeds across a metal track. It's the way the visor reacts to the environment and enemies. I think Metroid Prime would have definitely been a good game without all of these. These shouldn't ever make or break a product, but Metroid Prime is an exceptional game because of them. I personally love the foreshadowing of the scans. If you take a moment to read optional pirate logs in Phendrana Drifts, you'll come to learn about an abandoned experiment known as Project Titan. The pirates were forced to quarantine the subject after they lost control of it because of how aggressive it was. Well, after exiting the pirate lab in Phendrana, you'll stumble across a massive room known as the Quarantine Cave, where you face off against Thardus, the result of Project Titan. Similar foreshadowing occurs with Flagra. The Chozo civilization on Talon 4 collapsed mostly in due to their water supply being poisoned. As you trek through the ruins, nearly all water sources are poisoned. Until you defeat Flagra. This purifies the region and gives you safer access to more areas without the need for another upgrade. And again, more foreshadowing occurs in the Phazon Mines pirate logs. They speak of Project Helix, their attempt to infuse their own DNA with Phazon. As you progress through the logs, the pirates go from struggling to get any results to making breakthrough after breakthrough. You face off against multiple test subjects, which ultimately culminate in the Omega Pirate, the pinnacle of Project Helix. All of these are really well done because it's more subtle storytelling. It's there for people who want to become more involved in the world, but the game stands alone without it. It treads a fine line between allowing the world to do the talking and feeling really fleshed out with the optional logs. Even the titular final boss is foreshadowed in the Chozo lore. Metroid Prime is described as a ravenous worm who blights Talon with its great poison. In the original Prime, scannable targets had a little icon overlaid over them. Retro overhauled this in Prime 2 and 3 by highlighting the entire target. This made it much easier to identify what exactly could be scanned in the environment. I was a little disappointed to see that this feature wasn't put into the remaster. It can be difficult to see what is scannable if you're looking at a big room for a small box. This issue is especially prevalent in the Chozo Ruins and Magmoor Caverns, where the red and orange boxes blend in just a little too well with the environments. It's a small change, but it would have had such a massive impact on quality life. But that's really my only gripe with scanning. It's such a unique feature of the game that is so well integrated, and I can't imagine playing Prime without it. Everybody knows the saying, show, don't tell. Well, in gaming, it goes one step further. Do, don't show. Metroid Prime is the king of do, don't show. There are so many great examples, so I'll only highlight a few. One of them is when you get the Wave Beam. In previous Metroid games, beam upgrades would stack, but in Prime, you can freely switch between them. So, when you get the Wave Beam, the natural instinct would be that it's immediately better than the Power Beam. And that's true for a time. You now have a way to dispatch of the atomic enemies that you've seen for a while now, despite them being attracted to the charged Wave Beam. However, you'll probably come across these little scarabs at some point. Killing them with the Wave Beam takes forever because of the slow fire rate, but if you switch to the Power Beam, it only takes a few seconds. This is genius. Without a single word of dialogue, Metroid Prime teaches you that while the Wave Beam will quickly dispatch enemies that previously couldn't be defeated, it won't replace your Power Beam. It's up to you to learn when to switch between your different weapons, and effectively plants the idea in your mind that enemies will be resistant and vulnerable to different weapons. Another great example is when you get the Thermal Visor. The Pirate Lab in Phendrana Drifts is really where the game's difficulty increases. Combat is way more frequent, and enemies hit harder and attack in larger groups. So you fight tooth and nail to work your way through the research facility, grabbing the super missiles along the way, and finally get the Thermal Visor. Only for the lights to cut out and leave you literally in the dark. So, naturally, you equip the visor and make your way out. It allows you to see the general outline of the room, and you'll be able to fight space pirates in the dark and those that have cloaking. And that's great. It's teaching you how to use the visor in an area that you're already familiar with until... Hang on. You're getting shot at, but there's nothing on the thermal visor. So you take it off and realize that one of the drones you saw before is firing at you. Within 10 minutes, the game gives you the thermal visor, teaches its strengths and weaknesses, again, without any dialogue. There's no, hey Samus, watch out, that thing won't show up on your thermal visor. And this section extends all the way through the Thardus fight. Using a new item to defeat a boss is always satisfying. But as soon as you break one of its body parts, it overloads your visor and you have to switch off of it. Even destroying the small boulders it throws at you will briefly overload it. So you're constantly switching between visors, taking advantage of your newly acquired super missiles, and retreating to safety with the boost ball. Thardus really feels like the first boss that tests your command over the combat mechanics. Which is perfect, because the Pirate Lab prepped you for that. It's just such a stellar sequence by giving you room to learn the game, and then constantly testing you on it. Metroid Prime is the master of doing more with less, and having you play instead of showing you how to play. Now, obviously, with a Metroidvania, the world is going to be the focal point. You're going to get lost. I played Prime probably 3 times before the remaster was released, so I'm pretty comfortable with Talon 4 and the item progression. Even then, there were still times where I got confused, but that's the point. It's a labyrinth, it's a puzzle that you slowly unravel. But Prime does everything in its power to have you construct a mental map of the world. It does that by spreading out various unique rooms. Over the course of the game, you'll come across various rooms that stand out. Not because they have a different tile set or color palette, but because of some distinct visual element. And these rooms are your little checkpoints to latch onto while playing the game to help you build that mental map. This allows you to understand the layout of a specific area without memorizing all of the little hallways. My personal favorite room is the observatory in Phendrana Drifts. While you do get the super missiles there, I remember it because of the hologram that's projected. It gives you a little bit of lore about Zebes and Talon 4, but it's mostly just an interesting extra. You've also got the monitor station in Magmore, Phazon processing station in the mines, and many more. These rooms probably vary from person to person, and you probably can't remember the names of most of them. I know I had to look them up. But they serve as your anchor point, your foundation. They help you navigate the world just like in real life. If you ask for directions from somebody, they probably won't tell you to turn right in 6 blocks and then turn left in 3 blocks. They'll probably tell you to turn right at the gas station and left at the stop sign. It's the same thing. The only real issue I have with the world is that I think the environments could be a little more unique. Prime 2's Sanctuary Fortress and Prime 3's Elysia were both superbly interesting and creative areas. I feel like Prime 1 lacks that. I guess the impact crater serves as this game's interesting area, but it doesn't stick around long enough to really create an emotional connection to it. Although the highlight of the impact crater is definitely the final boss, Metroid Prime. It's really an awesome fight that has you utilize nearly your entire arsenal and is the final test to prove your mastery over the power suit. Of course, you have to love that its theme is a remix of the intro screen. It feels so mysterious and alien, which is absolutely perfect for exploring an unfamiliar world. Overall, I think the sound design is really well done here. Magmore Caverns is great. And it contrasts exceptionally well with Phendrana Drifts. I particularly love the effects the arm cannon makes when charging, and each beam has a unique firing sound. Samus feels weighty in this game. You aren't zipping around like you can in Dread, although that's probably due to the lack of a speed booster and the nature of 3D games. But you can feel the impact when you fall from great heights. Samus even recoils and her arm cannon briefly goes off screen. Her grunts also go a long way to sell the gravitas of the falls and hits. One of the most controversial aspects of this game is the Chozo artifacts. I honestly don't think they're as bad as people make them out to be. You're given a pretty big hint to return to the Talon overworld in Phendrana Drifts, and all the statues give very obvious hints as to where the artifacts are located. Granted, not all of them are scannable right away, but you are able to start your hunt early into the game. More importantly, it gives you another goal. You know that the source of the Phazon is hiding in the depths of the impact crater, and this is your ticket to head down there and finish this. Plus, the whole big game is just one big scavenger hunt. By the end of the game, you're basically an unstoppable killing machine, so plowing through the world shouldn't be too much of a chore. However, I will admit that it does break up the pacing. On another note, I think that the camera being fixed while in Morph Ball is an odd choice. It made sense in the original, given its dated control scheme, but it shouldn't be the case now. I played with traditional twin-stick controls, and I imagine most people did, so this felt really jarring. I'm not particularly sure why Nintendo chose to keep this, of all things, faithful, but they did. Metroid Prime Remastered proves that games don't need to be new to be great. Nintendo did not need to do a remake like Final Fantasy VII, and we're so lucky that they didn't. And we're so lucky that this isn't just some upscaled port. This is truly one of the best, most comprehensive graphical updates to a game that I have ever seen. It amazes me how well this game has aged. Certain monolithic games don't age so well, but not Metroid Prime. Its formula is incredible over 20 years later, and even in an era that is arguably oversaturated with Metroidvanias. Is it perfect? No, of course not. I don't think any game is perfect. Just like no song, no movie, no book is perfect. It's not even my favorite Metroid game. I think that the Spring Ball edition has trivialized many of the Morph Ball puzzles, where once you prayed not to mistime a bomb jump, you now don't even have to worry about a platform disappearing beneath you. I think the Chozo artifacts should have been introduced earlier in the game, and I don't understand why you have to wait to get hints for some of them. But all of these are just minor gripes that stand against the towering accomplishments of this game. The world, the lore, the gameplay are all amazing. Most importantly, it gives you pure agency in how to interact with it and respects your intelligence. Metroid Prime serves as a triumph for the player and game design. Thanks for watching.